Welcome into the PFF NFL Daily. Sam Monson here, joined today by Trevor Sikkema. Steve is away. He's bounced. He's gone for a day. So that means, Trevor, we get to have the talk about overtime in the NFL, a discussion I simply cannot bring myself to care about. But you appear to have takes, so let's hear them. What do you got?
I care too much about this. I truly do. I really do. But we watched Chiefs and the Bills game. Unbelievable game. One of the best playoff games that any of us have ever watched. One that will simply go down in history, not just because of how it ended with those two quarterbacks going back and forth and how it was just heroic performances on both sides and how many points were scored after the last 2 minutes of the fourth quarter and all that. But we're also going to remember it and talk about it forever because it's going to be a defining moment of the current NFL overtime rules, which I hate. I hate them. I get that we can't go to college. I know some people want to do the old college thing where each team just lines up at the 25, but the NFL is not going to go that off the wall. So I don't think that's going to happen. But dude, Sam, how can you tell me you don't care about the overtime rules when you watch Kansas City march down, win the game, and Josh Allen doesn't even get the ball in overtime? How can you say you don't care about that?
Yeah, look, it's a bad system. I'm not going to defend it. I'm just saying I simply can't find it in me to care. Whatever the solution is, it's going to be bad. Like, the whole point is neither team was able to win it in regulation. You have to do something different to break the tie. And whatever you do different, it's going to suck. Whether or not both guys get a chance to answer, whether you play a whole quarter of the game and then you have to do something else, whether it's like, penalty kicks, like whatever you do, it's going to be bad. So this is just the reality of the world. If you have to break a tie, ultimately any method you choose to break that tie is going to be bad.
So what I'm hearing is a field goal off. A field goal competition is what you want. Just straight penalty kicks, but it's field goal. What if the kickers played 3-bar? Like, you got to hit the left, you got to hit the left, the right, and then you got to hit the crossbar, and like that's how overtime.
I mean, look, that's better than the current system. I'm in.
So obviously, like, I don't like the current system because it allows a world to exist, which we saw this past weekend, where these two quarterbacks are right in the middle of two superhuman performances, and one of them doesn't even get a chance to touch the ball. And I will address some of the concerns that, like you just said there, which are common and logical. They make sense. I'm not saying that you're wrong. You're totally not wrong. But I went back and forth with a bunch of people on Twitter who are kind of like, same thing. Like, oh, like if you change it, like this is wrong and everything. I think the number one part of going into this discussion of why you need to change these rules is, one, you have to go into it knowing that no system is going to be perfect. Like you said, there's going to be flaws with whatever solution we come up with. It's not going to be a totally fair thing, but that doesn't mean it can't be better than what it currently is. What it currently is, obviously, if you win the coin toss and you go down and you score a touchdown, the other team doesn't even get the ball. To me, that's pretty stupid. Especially since the whole reason why we are entering overtime is because the scores were tied in regulation. And when you win that coin toss, and when you are a good offense that wins that coin toss, that to me is something that has nothing to do with the game of football having way too much weight in the outcome of the game of football. Now, obviously, like, we have the coin flip at the beginning of the game, which goes into it as well, which gives you an extra possession. But there's so much football that gets to happen, like, after the coin toss. There's not enough football currently that is guaranteed to happen that allows the football game to be determined by football, or at least a lot more than it should compared to a coin toss. I didn't mean to cut you off.
My biggest problem with it at the moment is the arguments that people use to defend it, because I think they're generally very, very bad. Like, the idea of the thing you hear all the time is, we'll just play defense, right? Like, well, one, the NFL is moving ever more offense focused, right? Year on year, offense is getting more and more and more prevalent. You can't then just decide, well, yeah, but once we get to overtime, now you suddenly need to find a defense from somewhere. And two, some games are offensive shootouts. Some games are defensive struggles. The coin flip has a massive disproportionate value in the offensive shootouts relative to the defensive games, right? A defensive game, sure, you can play defense in overtime and keep it going, and whoever wins the coin toss, it doesn't necessarily mean that much. If it's a shootout where neither defense is able to hold up anyway, you are basically just handing the game to the team that gets possession in overtime. So that, like, inherently, it's disproportionately unfair in completely different games. Like, it's not even a level unfair playing field. It's unfair in some games, it's not unfair in other games, and that just makes it like a weird system to begin with. I want to check back though and find out what your proposal is, but first, let me hit this DraftKings read. 4 teams remain in the NFL playoffs, and that means only 4 teams left for you to bet on at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Counting down to 6-1 odds on any team. Bet just $5 and get $280 in free bets if your team wins. Not a new customer, you can experience the conference championships with same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets from the same game for a bigger payout. The more legs you add, the more money you can win. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. And that's been a problem other places, let me tell you. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF and get 56-1 odds on any NFL team. Bet just $5 and win $280 in free bets if your team wins. That's promo code PFF for 56-1 odds at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. 1 per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. So, of all the terrible options on the table, what's your favorite? What do you want to do?
I think the one that makes the most sense, or at least the one that I can certainly live with, that is within the realm of possibility, is simply guarantee 1 possession for both teams. And there are arguments, the people, right. But here, hold on. Hear me out here. Okay. So let's just say the world stays the same and the team that wins the coin toss takes the ball. Now we'll get into the team opting to defer, but like, let's just say the team who wants the ball first, gets the ball first, they go down, they score a touchdown. The other team should then have the option or the ability to match it. So let's say they march it down and score a touchdown. Now, I'll answer one of your questions right away. If the team gets the ball back, goes down, kicks a field goal or scores a touchdown, end the game there. At that point, I'm fine because you know what? More football determined the outcome of the game. And if you can't stop the other team twice from scoring, then we are not in a regulation time. We are in an overtime. I am okay with that. You can live with that. And you can logically, and I think somewhat fairly say, okay, defense does still exist in the game of football. You should have been able to stop them at least one time, especially in an overtime period. Now, somebody else will say, oh, well, that means that if one team scores first, then the other team who gets the ball next has the option to go for 2. Okay, well, how is that any different than anywhere else? That's the whole risk of going for 2. That's the whole risk of, do you want to tie it and give the ball back to him, or do you want to go win the game? And if you do, guess what? Again, football determined the outcome, not nearly as much weight of a coin flip. Other people would say, oh, then you would just defer because it's easier to defend and then get a field goal. Okay, well then that's all fine. To me, if you guarantee 1 possession, that simply means that football will determine the winner of the football game. Whereas when you, like you said, Sam, when you get 2 really good offenses in the playoffs, like we think is going to be the case every single year, and you go to this overtime format, guess who's going to win the game the majority of the time? The team that wins the coin toss, because the game is skewed to their side. And that's just the way it is. A lot of people are like, oh, we're bringing up statistics from since the overtime rules were changed in like 2010, like it's close to 50%. I don't give a damn what a awful football matchup between the Dolphins and the Jets that maybe went to overtime in 2013 has to say about a playoff implication game in 2022. I'm sorry, I don't care. The rules should not be that way. In the regular season, if you want to pull whatever they're doing now because you got to keep games moving, you've got to get people to tune into the next game, TV contracts matter for it, fine. I don't care. Whatever. It's the regular season. I won't get too loud about that. But in the playoffs, it cannot be this way. It cannot be this way. Both teams have to get a possession.
And it is a big difference in the playoffs. Like it's 52% or something generally since they changed the rules, but it's 10-1 with the team that wins the coin toss wins the game in the playoffs, which feels like a much more significant statistic. That's a fascinating line to draw because when you look at last night's game, to me, that just means the Mahomes and the Chiefs score a touchdown. Josh Allen and the Bills answer with a touchdown. Then Mahomes and the Chiefs go down and score again, and we were in exactly the same situation, except with one drive extra or two drives extra in the game. I'm not seeing a solved problem here. Let me give you the pitch that I like. Mike Renner was the person I first heard come up with this. It's almost certainly not his idea, because that's just the way Mike rolls. But
it's good.
I like it. It's essentially a penalty shootout, except you line up from the 2-point line. It's 2-point conversions. Each team gets 5 2-point conversions.
Oh, sure.
You alternate one each on offense, and you just keep going until you do the best of 5, like a soccer penalty shootout. And then if that doesn't decide it, then it's sudden death. The first team that gets one and the opposition doesn't, you win. That's football plays. It's not kicking. It's not deciding the game with kickers. They're actual football plays. It is even, like each side gets the 5. It's not 100% even, because just like soccer penalty shootouts, the team that goes second or the team that goes first or whatever has an advantage, right? Because you know what you need to do. But I think that's the fairest solution I've heard.
I don't totally hate that, but I will. That's the best we're gonna get here. But I will say, I might make people angry here because, as entertaining and as wonderfully chaotic as PKs are, especially like in a tournament like the World Cup or the UEFA Championship or whatever, I think they're a pretty shitty way to end a postseason game, a game for a championship, because you're not playing soccer. You are kicking one-on-one against you and the goalie. That's not soccer or football, whatever you want to call it. Like, it is you're deciding the championship by a mini game. And red zone or 2-point conversion offense and defense, that is still football, but it's not all of football. Like, if I had it my way, I would just keep playing soccer matches until somebody scored. And you can go, well, guys would get dead tired. Okay. I mean, that to me is still more pure to the sport.
It might be pure, but I cannot tell you how much I don't want that to happen. I'm already the guy that anytime a game finishes in regulation, want to skip extra time immediately, go right to penalty kicks. Penalty kicks, particularly in a big tournament like the World Cup, are the single greatest period of drama in professional sports.
I do not disagree with you. I do not disagree with you at all whatsoever. As a fan, unbelievably entertaining. But a mini game is not how you end a championship or you win a championship. I'm just not about it. In playoff hockey in the NHL, they literally just play until the next goal is scored. And I remember, I'm a big Tampa Bay Lightning fan. I'm from just south of Tampa. The Lightning played in a 5 overtime game in I think it was either game 2 or game 3 of the first round 3 years ago. And it was just this unbelievable edge of your seat for 3 extra hours of this game. And obviously that's to the extreme part of it. But you know what, Sam? More hockey, real hockey, won the game. And that's what it should be about.
Well, there we go. Let's just play football until everybody drops dead in the game. That's the way we're going to end it from now on in. That's what we've decided here on the PFF NFL Daily. Trevor, thanks for joining me. That's been today's